Hello everyone.
Normally, you'd be seeing the Upstart Live team deliver a live news program from the La Trobe Media Hub.
But with unexpected and unprecedented threats to our way of life, this is no longer possible.
The show will not be able to be delivered in the regular manner or at the regular pace.
But Upstart Live has always prided itself on pushing through dark times, and this is no exception.
Still be shows created and uploaded here on the Upstart Magazine YouTube channel.
They have instead been pre-recorded and made available while the staff is in self-isolation.
We will note that some of the footage that appears in this first episode was captured before the government introduced more stringent social distancing rules.
We know the challenge, but we have chosen to face up to it.
Regardless of the circumstances, you will see a program right now.
As for what's next, we'll be back soon enough with a new program.
Because nothing will stop us from uploading.
We may be locked up,
but we won't shut up. Now, onto the show.
Hi, I'm Will.
And I'm Nadia.
And welcome to The Lockdown, a show brought to you by the La Trobe Upstart broadcast crew in self-isolation.
You can follow our team's journey on Instagram at upstart_LTU.
This week on the show, La Trobe goes into shutdown.
We have a closer look at how the sport of gridiron is growing in Australia.
Our entertainment team interviews Married at First Sight's first LGBTIQA contestant, Amanda McAuliffe.
And some streaming recommendations to help keep you sane in isolation.
But first, we join Megan for the news headlines.
Thanks, Will and Nadia. Victoria has taken yet another step forward in the wake of a further 56 cases being confirmed in the state overnight. As of midnight tonight, Stage 3 rules will come into play. This will include all indoor and outdoor gatherings being limited to 2 people and only leaving households for necessities. Australia's cases have now reached over 4,000, with Tasmania confirming their first death from the novel coronavirus. Woolworths have launched a new grocery box service to deliver to vulnerable members of the public after the Prime Minister announced that those over the age of 70 should self-isolate. The grocery pack will be rolled out across Victoria and New South Wales and will cost $80 including delivery. On the lighter side of today's news, in Queensland, Yoda the green sea turtle is returning home after 5 months in rehabilitation. The turtle was found on a remote beach in poor condition but has recovered from his injuries and is now back at sea. That's all in today's news, and make sure you are keeping up to date with the changes being announced throughout the week.
Okay. And thank you for those headlines, Megan. It's been a really stressful couple of weeks trying to adjust to our new way of life in self-isolation. I know that I've been struggling to try and get a handle on things, especially with working from home. How have you been taking all of these new changes, Will?
Well, it's still early days, but thankfully I haven't gone too stir-crazy just yet. It's certainly a challenging and confusing time, but I suppose it's comforting to know that we're all in the same boat. Hey, how have you found the change to online learning, Nadia?
I think that because a lot of learning institutions already have the online infrastructure for students to be learning from home, it's been surprisingly smooth.
This is very true, and for more on how teachers, staff and students have been adapting to these changes, here's Ramil.
La Trobe University unfortunately had to temporarily close its doors due to the spread of COVID-19. As courses move online, many students are now facing worry and stress on how they would cope. Dr. Claire Knowles, an English lecturer at La Trobe University, has developed a study plan that can help and assist students during these difficult times.
Could you explain your study plans and how they enable students affected by the travel ban to attend their classes and keep up with work?
Yeah, so when we found out that we were going to be, in particular, students trapped in China as a result of the travel ban, we individually studied tailor plans so that they could continue to study online even if they couldn't actually come to Australia. With the help of the head of school, I contacted staff members who would be willing to put their subjects online or offer them in an online form so that those students could complete them. And we managed to accommodate all of the students. So,
did you encounter any problems while designing these plans?
There are a couple of subjects that we couldn't accommodate. That was easy to substitute them out for, say, electives, or we did alternate study plans for students to count different subjects towards their major. So it was pretty easy.
Do you think this inconvenience could affect the overall performance of students in their subjects in any way?
Students are going to have to be more self-reliant this year, I think. They're going to have to do a lot more independent study. They're going to struggle, I think, to find materials, physical materials, although the library has quite a good range of online materials. So, yeah, it's not going to be a great year for study for a lot of students now, not just the ones who were affected by the earlier travel ban. But that said, my colleagues have worked really hard to try and get the best quality online subjects up that they can.
And do you think the methods being used, allowing students to attend classes from home due to the university being shut down, will be successful for the whole semester?
I hope so. Once again, it's really up to students. I know staff are doing their all to make sure that it's a comparable experience studying online as opposed to studying face-to-face. And I think that as it becomes clearer that there's not going to be much else for people to do, but do their studies, so many people are going to be stuck at home, I'm hoping that translates to increased attendance at online shoots and so on. But it remains to be seen how well students will cope with the transition to online. Some students really struggle with it. Others are quite happy for it. So I guess it's an experiment in action.
Many students are now studying in isolation. Edison, an international student, has returned from China and is experiencing another isolation in Australia and discusses his experience.
What went through your mind when you discovered that you were unable to return to La Trobe due to the coronavirus outbreak in China?
Actually, when they just released the travel ban policy, they affect me a lot because I'm the straight up person. I come to Thailand at 27th of February, and I think I need to come back as soon as possible because we are the media students, and if you're not use and you're not to work with a group, that was a really big trouble things for your studies, because if you not communicate with people, if you not work with people, that will be affect your study a lot, because our subject needs to work with people. You cannot do something alone. So I just decided, okay, I need to go back to Australia. But when I arrived Australia is the 14th of March. Actually, I was already lose 2 weeks class, but my lecturer and my tutor was helping me a lot. They were extending my due date. Yeah.
Unfortunately, due to the outbreak of COVID-19, La Trobe University had to temporarily close its doors shortly after the filming of this story.
Thanks for that report. And remember, if you are struggling, La Trobe has counselling services available for students. During this time of self-isolation, staying fit and active is becoming increasingly important, especially since so many sporting clubs and teams have shut down in response to the coronavirus pandemic.
Speaking of which, before we entered lockdown, our reporter Nikki went along to a training session with the Victorian State Women's Gridiron team to see how the sport is growing in Australia.
High impact and fast pace, American football isn't a sport you typically think of being played in Australia. But for these players and coaches, it's also their chance of representing Victoria and playing for a crowd at the national championships this year. So how did these players and coaches fall in love with the sport?
I started playing gridiron because I was fixing someone who had lower back surgery. So I'm a rehab coordinator, so being able to help fix her through her injury phases. I then got into flag football, and from there I thought, why not try gridiron? It's a completely different sport. I wanted to play something different, something a little bit more technical.
I used to play soccer when I was a kid, and I just wanted to try something new. So I tried gridiron and I really enjoyed it. I really liked the strategic aspect of it.
I grew up with the sport back in Canada, so I grew up watching it my whole life, and then when I started year 9 in high school, I was able to play and immediately fell in love with the sport. And then after high school I didn't play, but got involved with the sport again when I moved here to Australia. And yeah, haven't looked back ever since. I've loved being a coach, and yeah, it's been great so far.
Women's participation has been growing for all sports in Australia, and gridiron has been no different.
Gridiron is now an aspect in regards to women's sport. So I think over time, with more people participating in this sport and more people understanding what gridiron is through flag football or through a company called Team Touchdown, we're going to get a lot more influence on women's sport and gridiron as a whole within Australia.
There seems to be growing interest in the sport with every year. I remember when I first moved here, I told people that I was watching the Super Bowl and they either didn't know what it was or they laughed at me. And as the years went on, more people were curious to now where people are just watching the sport a lot. So in terms of viewership, it's growing quite a bit, and I hope participation in the sport kind of follows that trend as well too.
I think over the last couple of years there's been a massive growth in the sport, so both for the men's but also for the juniors, so for the kids and for women's. And I think it's just coming from other sports as well, and then more people seeing the sport, hearing about it, and hearing about like how many different positions you can play in gridiron. There's basically a position for everybody. So I think for a lot of people it's a great sport, especially if they don't find a suitable position in another sport.
The Victorian Eagles will compete in the National Championship later this year at Central Coast Stadium in Gosford, New South Wales.
I've never played for the state before, so I'm super excited to do something for my state, but then also for women's sport.
Well, I've never played in a sports tournament at all, or competed in a sports tournament all of this size, so I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, the girls have been working really hard, so it'll be really interesting to put ourselves up against the rest of the competition in the country. You're coaching the best of the best in the state, so you've got players that are already experienced coming in. So you're dealing with players that already know the fundamentals. So you get to come in and, as a defensive coordinator, be really creative with what you're doing, because you're not so much as focused on coaching the skills of the sport, which you might be at the club level in Australia when dealing with new players. Here we're getting the best of the best, so we just get to dive straight into it head first and see where we end up.
As the threat of COVID-19 spreads throughout the world of sport, the Eagles would not let it affect their preparation.
So far it's been okay. We just hope that the grounds stay open and that we won't be impacted in the future, and also hopefully don't have any players that don't come to training because of it.
In regards to the coronavirus at the moment, nothing has impacted my training. The only thing that I'm more mindful of is a lot more, I guess, hygiene in regards to being at the gym, so making sure I'm wiping down the equipment, making sure I'm wiping down any foam rollers or the balls when it comes to training. Other than that, I don't think it has affected the training that much.
It's definitely something to be mindful of. It's not something that I can be concerned about, because I still obviously have to train and coach and everything as if the tournament's still going ahead full steam, and we'll continue to prepare that way. But if worse comes to worse, hopefully the tournament is only postponed, but we'll be ready. We'll be ready if it's at the end of May when it should be, or if it's in 6 months after that, we'll be ready.
Unfortunately, the National Championship was postponed from late May to later in the year, shortly after the filming of this story. To help support the Victorian Eagles, visit the Gridiron Victoria Facebook page at facebook.com/gridironvictoria, where you can donate to their GoFundMe or buy supporters merch.
Thanks for that report, Nikki. Next up, TV ratings for reality TV show Married at First Sight Australia were at a record-breaking high this year.
We spoke to contestant Amanda McAuliffe to get a better idea of what life after Married at First Sight is like, and what advice she might have for reality TV hopefuls.
The growth of reality TV has thrived since becoming globally popular in the late 1900s and early 2000s. Reality TV gives viewers the chance to escape their home lives and occupations and serve as a form of entertainment for many Australians, with 41% of viewers tuning in every week. This season, Married at First Sight aired one of its first female same-sex marriage couples that produced a series of dramas surrounding love, controversy, and challenges. It was a season that was not to be missed. This week, we spoke to Amanda McAuliffe to get a better idea of what life after Married at First Sight is like and what advice she has for any others looking to follow in her footsteps.
If you're going just for love, you might be more disappointed than not. And that's the thing. And if we're going to be, again, really honest, let's be honest, you don't need a show to find love, okay? So make of that what you will, but yeah, I'd just be very careful going into something like this.
For Amanda, the LGBTIQA representation was a motivating factor in her applying for the show.
You know, it was about bringing a sense of normality to our choice of sexuality. It's not even a choice, really. It's who we are. But I think the show needed to go, you know, there is a girl who lives a very normal sort of life, who's not covered in tattoos, who's not a party animal, who breaks, I guess, every stereotype, and is still gay, lo and behold, you know.
And while others on the show have received copious amounts of backlash, Amanda says her experience has been mostly positive.
I mean, I got a lot of love and support from the community, especially on Instagram, from all over the world, not just in this country. And they said, you know, it was always the same thing, you know, you're such a strong, amazing woman. What you've done for our community, you will never really fully appreciate deep down, just, you know, like the impact. And that's mainly what I wanted coming into this, was that massive impact. Yeah.
When talking about the explosive dynamics in the show, Amanda says a solid network on the outside has helped her transition back into everyday life.
But if it doesn't work, like any relationship, there'll obviously be a period where you feel let down, hurt, disappointed, cheated, wasn't quite what you expected, and you've got to be ready for all of that. But make sure that you have an amazing support network back at home, because don't rely on the other contestants to be your true friends in there. Because everyone's there for themselves at the end of the day. You want to walk away going back to your normal life as quickly as possible to transition out of that whole bubble.
And as for her advice for hopefuls looking to find love on the show,
just don't piss the producers off and you'll be fine.
Get on there.
This is Gladys reporting from lockdown. Back to you in the studio, Will and Nadia.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram for all of your latest lockdown news at upstart_LTU.
Running out of shows to binge in lockdown? Tired of the same 3 sitcoms over and over again? Don't worry, because Aisling and Eleni have been all over streaming this week. Here they are with a few suggestions you might have missed.
Hey, it's Aisling
and Eleni,
and this is our weekly segment called What's Streaming, where we watch and review the most underrated TV shows that are streaming at the moment.
This week we're reviewing The Glitch, an Australian TV show streaming on Netflix.
We're all risen again.
For what purpose? I remembered something. I was in a fight.
You were murdered.
Maybe we all were.
This event could completely transform biological science.
I know about what you're doing with no gun.
Set in the fictional town of Urana, Victorian police officer James Hayes, who's played by the Aussie actor Patrick Brammall, is called to the cemetery late at night where he discovers 7 naked people coming out of their graves.
The paranormal drama show follows the crew as they find out who they are and the truth behind how they came to be back alive.
Yeah, so what did you think of the show?
I don't normally like mystery shows, but I really did like this one. I think they really did it in a way that makes you want to come back all the time, and I liked the slow unfold of it as well.
Yeah.
How you kind of go with them on the journey as well. That was really cool.
I definitely agree. It really kept me like on the edge of my seat. And it was really cool because at the start they actually had no recollection of their memories from their past life, how they died. And then you kind of, it all unfolds, and like you said, you're on that journey with the characters.
You should be safe here. Who exactly are you hiding us from?
I also think they dealt really well with issues in like Australia as well, like discrimination and homophobia.
Yeah.
It's just, they did it in a way that, you know, you've got that comedy relief. So it didn't feel too heavy and it was really light and breezy, but it was still good to touch on them.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's really important to touch on those heavy issues, but in a lighter way, and they handled that really well, I'd say. As well, I just thought it was shot like beautifully. I thought there were so many shots that just looked amazing. The Australian outback and the landscape.
Yeah, the scenery was just incredible.
Yeah.
It really made me want to go out and watch more Aussie films and get behind them as well. Like, I was so blown away at how well it was done. I'm like, if this is the quality of this one, there's got to be more out there that are just like it. So I'm going to have a look around, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's really important, as we know, to support Australian film and TV, but as we also know, it's a bit hit and miss, but this one was definitely a hit for both of us, I think, and I'm just really impressed with it.
Yeah, for sure. And what did you think of it out of 10?
I think I'm going to have to give it an 8 out of 10. I just cannot fault it. I was looking at it really critically as well, and I just couldn't really find many faults, and I just found it really entertaining, and I'm already up to episode 4, when I said I was only going to watch 2 episodes. So
yeah, we were in the boat that we were going to do that. I gave it an 8 out of 10 as well. But I've already up to season 2 of the whole series, and I honestly love it so much. It's so good. I can't wait to watch more and find out how it just all fits together. It's so good. So
yeah, I look forward to continuing it as well. And that's all that we have time for today. But next week we will be discussing the Netflix series The Casketeers. So head over to our Instagram and let us know what you thought of today's episode or what you thought of The Glitch if you've seen it.
Thanks for joining us, and here's Michael with the latest game review.
Hey, I'm Michael Georgia, and this is my new weekly segment where I'll suggest an unknown, underrated, or overlooked video game for you to play. This week's suggestion is Shadow of Colossus. The PS4 exclusive is a remake of the 2005 classic for the PlayStation 2 that places you in a forbidden land where you will hunt giant monsters. The action-adventure game forces players to problem solve and is the perfect way to prepare you for when uni starts again. It is uniquely beautiful and a simple game. You forget that it's a 13-year-old game, and the illusion that the Colossi are living creatures creates an internal conflict in the player, and the climax of the story remains as one of the most beautiful and powerful moments in all of gaming. It gets a 7 out of 10 for me. The PlayStation Plus exclusive for March is available for free, but only for a couple more days, so get downloading ASAP. And while you're at it, you can also download Sonic Forces, the other PS Plus title for March. Back to Will and Nadia.
Some great picks there that I'll have to get onto. Thank you to Aisling and Eleni for putting that package together. Next up on the show, Gladys heads to the farm to try and find her niche.
Hey guys, so today's my first farm day! Alright, so just taking this bucket, gonna go feed the calves. This is hard work. So I'm just taking these milk carts off to clean them. Out for this. Chunky milk. Smells great. I love it. I love this. Really getting in there. So just about to feed the calves for the first time. I'm getting the hang of this. I got this. There you go, my friend. That's how you feed a calf. Rewarding. I love it out here. I'm thinking this is my niche, guys. So guys, that was a successful calf feeding moment. So you can see all the bubbers have been fed. So the baby calves need these milk, good milk, so they get the nutrients they need to grow as big as their mama cow. Oh my god! So we're just at the milking station. All those cows need to be milked. I just don't want to get too close, but you can see that's them getting milk. Yeah. Oh no, he's getting. There we go. Taking time to come. Get in. I hope I don't get kicked in the face. Yeah. Great. Yeah, put it down. So my farm day is almost over. Just cleaning up the rest of this.
concludes today's farm day, guys. Had a really good time. Don't know if it's my niche. Think it's too early to say. I hope you enjoyed my shenanigans. I'm quite incompetent, as you can see on the farm, but good fun. Don't know if I could be a farmer girl myself, but I had a really good time. It was a very rewarding day and oddly satisfying. I hope you enjoyed it, and here's to my niche. Massive shout out to the Crothers Dairy Farm for letting me video my first vlog there. Find out next week if I find another niche.
And unfortunately, that's the show for this week.
Thank you for joining us on The Lockdown, your new favourite show during self-isolation.
Stay safe, stay well, and stay home. Until next time, I'm Will.
And I'm Nadia, and that's it from us. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at upstart_LTU.